People were genuinely wondering over the long Labor Day weekend whether President Donald Trump had died or was on his deathbed. This was a trending topic on social media. We're going to get into all of it in just a moment. Before we do, make sure to subscribe over at undercurrents.tv for the full premium experience of the show. We have a long interview with Emily Kopp that you can watch in full about COVID origins and new news on that front. That is going to be out this week for our premium subs, so head on over to undercurrents.tv to see the full version of it. The interview will drop here on our YouTube channel, and if you want to see the full thing, you can head on over to undercurrents.tv. Subscribe on YouTube. It helps us so much. We're almost at that 100,000 follower mark, which we're very excited to hit, and grateful to everybody for making it possible. And also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's try to figure out why social media was seriously debating whether or not Donald Trump was dead or about to be dead over the long weekend. I will say, there genuinely was some weird stuff happening. On the one hand, someone said that they had seen Melania Trump at Walter Reed Hospital in Maryland, which is where presidents, including Donald Trump, have often been treated for serious problems. And the First Lady's office was asked about that rumor by Newsweek, and Newsweek sent them over to the White House. The White House had also not responded. Walter Reed had sent Newsweek over to the White House, and the White House had also not responded to Newsweek about all of this. After this is a vet tech student, Coral Ben Attar, said on Threads Saturday that he saw Melania Trump at Walter Reed. So there was a Melania Trump sighting at Walter Reed, and the White House, the First Lady's office is not commenting on it. Walter Reed not commenting on it. You can see how something like that, even though it is just an account from one person, not verified, blows up into, well, why was Melania Trump spotted at Walter Reed Hospital when apparently this is the heart of it? Nobody had seen Donald Trump in days. We're going to get into how true that was, but this was from Betsy Klein over at CNN. She said, quote, Trump's public schedule went uncharacteristically dark in relation to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week. And because the schedule seemed to go dark. By the way, the week of Labor Day is the actual slowest week in all of American politics. That last week of August before Labor Day, it is the slowest week in Washington, D.C. Like 90% of people who work in D.C. are gone. It is a very, very slow week typically, so not entirely surprising. But for Donald Trump, that's a little bit surprising, of course. So you combine that with the fact that Donald Trump recently had been photographed with bruises on his hands and swollen ankles. Some of those bruises intentionally covered over with foundation. When you combine Trump having a slow late August schedule with that, with some of these photographs that Caroline Leavitt has addressed in the past, this is according to the White House in July. Trump had been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, which, as Yahoo reports, occurs when veins in the legs have trouble sending blood back to the heart. In a memo, Donald Trump's doctor said that that was a, quote, benign condition that was common among people over the age of 70, and there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease, and President Trump remains in excellent health. Of course, that is, again, according to Donald Trump's own physician. Caroline Leavitt has also said the bruises on Trump's hands have been caused by, quote, shaking hands all day, every day. But when you combine those images and the swollen ankles and the White House even acknowledging it with this diagnosis from the White House physician saying he has chronic venous insufficiency, then the Melania Trump rumor that she had been spotted at Walter Reed absolutely snowballed into a storm of increasingly crazy conspiracy theories. So on the one hand, I saw this thread on September 1st, so Monday, Labor Day, going mega viral. As I'm looking at it right now, it has 73,000 likes on X. And I'm scrolling through this thread to look at the evidence. This is from someone named Adam Cochran, who says more proof of a Trump health cover-up. Trump leaves the White House again this morning, mouth agape. This because a photographer captured Trump leaving the White House with, yes, his mouth looking agape. He's in a hat. Looks like he does when he goes golfing. And that he was not allowed to speak with reporters. I'm going to break all of this down. Just 1 second. I'm going to finish reading Adam, but no, there's more analysis coming. He says, then it gets weirder, like full-on AI gaslighting, kind of weird. He once again, quote, goes golfing at his club, and reporters are confined to the tennis court area, not allowed to speak to Trump, and not allowed to see him golfing, which they normally can. This set my radar off, because it's completely incorrect. Reporters do not see Trump golfing when he is at his Virginia golf club. If you are in the press pool, in fact, you remember, I was in the press pool when Trump was golfing a couple of weeks back. He's under no circumstances, unless he makes it intentionally the case, does he normally speak with reporters. Again, unless he goes out of his way. Reporters go into a van. Reporters ride that van to the golf club and do wait by the tennis court area while the president golfs, usually working, having coffee, takes hours. But it's not, part of the routine, unless Trump goes out of his way to talk to reporters, that you would have access to the president. You don't watch him golf. In fact, White House correspondent Philip Wegman over at Real Clear Politics said he's covered Trump since the first administration, been to the golf club numerous times, and has never seen Trump swing a club. And that's a very clear in this thread that's apparently trying to debunk misinformation, a source of serious misinformation. So it's not true that he wasn't, quote, allowed to speak with reporters, unless some reporter, or unless Trump himself said, I must speak with reporters, and someone said, no, Mr. President, and Adam Cochran somehow knows that. And it's just blatantly not true that the reporters were, quote, confined to the tennis court area unusually, or that they were not allowed to speak to Trump and not allowed to see him golfing, which they normally can. It's not true. You normally can't. So that already is just weird. But this all keeps snowballing to where people are doing meticulous analyses of different pictures. And let me say right there, fully understand why people would go down rabbit holes about any elderly president, or actually any president's health at this point, given what we went through for the past 4 years with Joe Biden, where you're being told by the Biden administration, people have recently talked to him, like Joe Scarborough said he'd never seen Joe Biden, I'm paraphrasing, but Joe Biden was in excellent health. It was, Biden at his very best, and that was just, over a year ago. I think it was the spring of 2024. So I fully understand people's skepticism, and Trump being out of the media eye for a few days, in addition to having bruising and swollen ankles, it's a very sort of seductive social media rabbit hole to find yourself going down. But also, let's stop right there, too, because it's not necessarily true that nobody saw him for 3 days. It is true, as Betsy Klein reported, that his public schedule went uncharacteristically dark from Wednesday through Friday. Not super shocking last week of August, but that is true. And for Donald Trump to have a light public schedule, I mean, the man loves exposure. He loves having events and talking to people. But Reagan Reese, who is a White House reporter for the Daily Caller, actually did a long interview with Donald Trump. And Reagan, who I know, actually a former student of mine, Reagan was kind enough to send us some of her experience interviewing Trump during this time period in which some people thought Donald Trump was actually dead. And this was on Friday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Reagan was posting that she had just been with the president on Friday. So all of these conspiracy theories were kind of moot at that point, because again, Reagan sat down, it was Friday afternoon, with Donald Trump and came out and said, listen, he's alive. I just talked to him for like an hour. So here's what Reagan passed along to Unheard when I asked her if she could elaborate a little bit on what it was like to interview the president in the midst of all of the speculation about his health and, to some extent, whether or not the man was dead. She says, "From my first step into the Oval Office, the president was energetic. He was ready for me, instantly chatty, asking me about myself and my past reporting. We talked for an hour on everything from his newest prank on Joe Biden," which you can read about in their interview, to his frustration with the Russia-Ukraine war. We even briefly toured the Rose Garden at his request. Even after talking for an hour, the president wanted to keep going, Reagan says to us at Unheard. She says, "Honestly," this was my favorite part, "honestly can't overstate how alive he was." And she says, "I'll add that he wanted to keep the interview going, but his staff had told him multiple times there were things he had to attend to. Can't say I paid much attention to his hands or bruising, but I have a firm handshake, and we shook hands multiple times, so potentially contributed to any bruising," because she says she has a firm handshake and may have indeed bruised the president with that strong handshake. From White House reporter over at the Daily Caller, Reagan Reese. You can read the full transcript of that interview over at the Daily Caller website, and this should have been a splash of cold water in the face of conspiracy theorists. But of course, once you start going down that rabbit hole, and there are kernels of truth, slow week for the president. He's got those bruises, and he's got those swollen ankles. By Saturday, you have someone saying they saw Melania Trump at Walter Reed. Trump just did this White House interview where he's walking a reporter through the Rose Garden. He's very much not dead. And the reporter saying he seemed perfectly normal. So that's that should have been the kind of calming, that should have had a calming effect on the wild conspiracy theories that are still actually churning out right now on TikTok and on X. But no, again, given the Biden situation, you can understand why this particular rabbit hole is seductive, as the president is diagnosed with a legitimate health condition that is manifesting in visible physical ways. But to have this testimony from a reporter, pictures from this reporter, and this account from a reporter that would have potentially stumbled into the scoop of a lifetime, that, believe me, even if the Daily Caller is on the right, nobody would ever turn down the scoop of a lifetime that Donald Trump is ailing, and is going on the record saying the guy was fine. I mean, this is all you, at that point, it seems to be all you would need to know, that Trump is out talking with reporters. Interestingly, also on Friday evening, because the White House guidance for that day usually comes out the evening before, this little inside baseball, usually comes out the evening before. During the Trump administration, it's been pretty late. You get it, honestly, like 9, 10, 11. Because it came out and said the president has no public events scheduled, people were again like, oh my gosh, where is Donald Trump? But the call time for the White House pool was 8 a.m. Again, that means if it's a Saturday and the call time is at 8 a.m., people who are in the White House press pool or pay attention to it would say, okay, he's going to go golfing. It's an 8 a.m. call time. That means he probably wants to get out to Virginia and hit the links by after 9 a.m. Again, I know this is inside baseball, going into the weeds a little bit, but as with many conspiracy theories that snowball very quickly, this one, some of these like relevant facts, and actually a colleague of mine, I will not say who it is, you know who you are, was in a like speculative loop on Friday after people were tweeting about the White House guidance saying no public events. Trump is not scheduled to be out in public. Like, is Trump okay? Is Trump alive? Half jokingly. And I said, well, let me take a look. Oh, 8 a.m. He's going golfing. It's a Saturday. He goes golfing many Saturdays. Call time when he does that, 8 a.m. Is what you see. If he wasn't doing something that day, even if it's not a public event, it would be unusual to have an 8 a.m. call time, because normally what would happen then is people would go in maybe like 9 or 10 and get, quote, a lid, because the president isn't going out and doing anything that day, and the pool doesn't need to follow the president along to monitor and report back to the rest of the press on his motion for that day. So all that is to say, there were all kinds of indicators early on in this conspiracy theory, even though it was based on some kernels that were interesting, especially when put together, that Donald Trump was very much alive. Well, how did Reagan put it? Quote, honestly can't overstate how alive he was. You had the testimony of a reporter with pictures. You had the information coming out that suggested his schedule was changing Saturday, Sunday. And you know what, by the way, given what we've gone through over the last 4 years, maybe Donald Trump is hiding some medical condition. That's one thing that nobody would know but Trump and his doctor. There are some medical conditions that don't manifest in ways that are obvious to the public. And so I'm not in any way going to get ahead of my skis and say it's impossible to know or it's definitive that Donald Trump is in great health, in a sort of Kim Jong-un style. Like, he could outgolf Tiger Woods, he could outdunk Michael Jordan. There would be no reason for anyone to get ahead of their skis and make that proclamation, because we know there are some medical conditions that don't manifest themselves publicly. We know that a president would have an incentive to play that down or hide it. In fact, we likely just saw that over the course of the last 4 years. We did just see that over the course of the last 4 years. So it's not as though we can declare definitively here Trump's doctor is right. He is in, quote, perfect health. But again, what was trending on social media? Quote, Trump dead. Trump dead. And for some people, yes, it was sort of tongue-in-cheek, but there were actual questions that this was actually like sort of leaking off of social media and into people who aren't just, quote, capital V, capital O, very online. It became like a brief pop culture phenomenon. Like, I saw E! News covering it. And, it's clicky, of course, that this is a theory that's being bounced around, especially after the Biden administration. But what we can say is, for now, a lot of people did get over their skis based on the information we had available. And we're, bringing to you here the facts as they are, not as some people might like them to be. Now, Alex Jones, by the way, very pro-Trump, did recently speculate that Donald Trump is in poorer health than he seems. Alex Jones was saying Trump seems to be tired. The swollen ankles, Jones said, were alarming. So basically, Trump does need to slow down. So it's not just like Blue and on left who was speculating about all of this. I think people have, their attention or standing at attention about some of this on the MAGA online right as well. But it did seem to really take off on the left over the last several days. And we thought it might be good to break down how this built and what actually happened here on Undercurrents. So thank you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe over at undercurrents.tv for the full premium experience of the show, including our interview with Emily Kopp tomorrow on what's happening behind the scenes with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, a former guest on this show, and gain-of-function research in the Trump administration. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Again, we're almost at 100,000 here on the YouTube channel. We appreciate it so much when you subscribe. It helps us. And we will see you back here with more Undercurrents soon.